The truck showed up on a Thursday morning, backed halfway up the driveway before Denise had finished her coffee. 2 men, a dolly, a clipboard. They were there for the washing machine, not to repair it, not to swap it out, to take it. And the part that would sit with her for weeks afterward, long after the empty rectangle of clean floor stopped catching her eye every time she walked past, was the arithmetic of it. She had already handed this company more than $1,100 for that machine. It had never, for a single day, been hers. To understand how a woman ends up watching her own washing machine roll back down the driveway on a dolly, you have to go back 6 months to the night it first broke. A low stutter mid cycle, then nothing, with a hamper of work scrubs sitting there that she needed clean by 6 the next morning for a home health shift she couldn't miss. Denise is 34, 2 kids, a car with 140,000 miles on it, and a credit score parked in the low 500s ever since an emergency room bill went sideways years ago. A bank had turned her down for a $200 limit not long before. So when she passed a storefront promising no credit needed, and a clerk pointed at a washing machine with a small number taped to the front, $25 a week, delivered that afternoon, it didn't feel like a decision at all. It felt like a rescue. The number on that tag is engineered to be the only one she looks at. There's no interest rate anywhere near it, no application, nothing resembling the word loan. And that's not sloppiness, it's the product. Because what she signed wasn't a loan, it was a lease. She was renting the machine 1 week at a time, with the option to eventually keep it if she paid long enough. And that single word carries the whole scheme. Loans in this country come armored in decades of consumer protection, rate ceilings, disclosure law, a paper trail a regulator can subpoena. Leases in most states carry almost none of it. An entire pricing model got built in the gap between those 2 words. It is not a small gap, and it is not a small industry. Rent-to-own dealers took in roughly $12 billion last year across more than 6.5 million households, something like 1 American home in 20. With over 2 million people paying on an active contract right now. This sits in the strip mall, between the pharmacy and the phone repair place, as ordinary as anything else on the street. The first stretch went smoothly, which is exactly the problem. Payments cleared, no surprises, no penalty, and so when her son outgrew his bed frame, that spring she walked into a different store across town and signed again, $42 a week. A separate company that knew nothing about the first contract. 2 payments now, 2 schedules, 2 lenders, neither aware of the other, and nowhere on any statement a single honest figure telling her what she owed each week just to keep a bed and a washer under her own roof. Nobody warns you. You simply learn, one uneventful month at a time, that this is how a person furnishes a home after the bank says no. Underneath the friendly weekly figure sits the one nobody points at. Independent surveys pricing identical appliances against ordinary retail have clocked effective annual rates on these contracts above 200% routinely, some past 300. A television that runs $660 at a normal store gets leased at $38 a week. Ride that to the end of the year and you've paid close to $2,000 for it. Federal consumer guidance says the quiet part out loud, that the convenience of taking something home before you've paid for it can cost you 2 to 3 times the sticker. There's an argument the industry and its critics have never settled, and it's worth naming instead of papering over. Dealers insist only 1/4 to 1/3 of customers ever finish a contract and own the item the rest handing it back partway through. Consumer advocates counter that most agreements do end in ownership. Nobody outside the stores has produced clean, independent numbers either way, which is its own kind of tell about a business that prints the weekly rate in bold and everything else in the fine print. What nobody argues about is what happens when the money gets thin. The industry's own data shows roughly one account in 1460 or more days behind, and nearly half of customers reporting a bill in the past year they simply couldn't cover. By month 6, Denise had paid for the washer close to twice over, though the bill never says so. It only ever shows this week's number. Then a client moved into assisted living. Her hours got cut with no notice, and she called to ask for a few days on one payment. There was no grace to extend. The model runs on the store's ability to reclaim the merchandise the instant a payment slips, because the collateral is the machine, not her word. 9 days later, the truck, everything she paid stayed with the store. Her kids clocked the empty spot on the floor before she found the words for it, and Saturdays turned into a rolling cart and a pocket of quarters at the laundromat. The bed frame she still owed on. Then there's the second edge, the one that cuts even if nothing goes wrong. Had she paid faithfully to the end and owned the machine outright, in most states, not a cent of that would ever have touched her credit file. It would not have lifted her score a single point, not made the next loan any easier to get. The missed payment, though, can drop straight into collections and shadow her for years. The downside reports, the good behavior evaporates. A handful of states fight this, Vermont demanding a plain effective rate on the page, Illinois and California requiring the total cost spelled out before signing. Most of the country requires neither, none of which makes this a trap in every case, and pretending otherwise would be dishonest. For plenty of people, it's the rational move, at times cheaper over the long run than letting a balance compound on a high interest card. When your credit is wrecked and the refrigerator dies this week, this is frequently the only door that opens without interrogating your past. Most dealers include free repairs and a loaner while yours is out, plus reinstatement if you fall behind and recover, none of which a bank will do. The customers aren't all destitute. Either a real share report household incomes well into 6 figures and simply want the machine home today. The option was never the villain. The villain is how seldom anyone gets the honest picture before they sign, standing there with a dead appliance at home and a clerk's finger resting on the smallest number on the tag. There is a program, it turns out, that does this without the teeth. A caseworker at Denise's agency knew of a non-profit lease-to-own run through a local credit union, the total price capped at a fixed markup on time payments reported to the bureau instead of disappearing. A real window before anyone repossesses anything. She got a comparable washer through it for a little over $1,000 all in, and this time every payment on time was building the exact credit that had locked her out to begin with. The first store is still there, still no credit check, still that small lit number in the window. Nothing about it is against the law, and every figure is disclosed somewhere on the page for anyone who knows which line to hunt for and which state they're standing in. The question was never whether the arithmetic is legal. In most places it plainly is. The question is why the only credit a bank rejection leaves you carries the steepest price in the entire market, and why one word on a contract has been enough for decades to hold the rules of lending at arm's length.